That's why I heard about 6 minutes left.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. We need a motion to approve our agenda with an addition to abate taxes for secondary road parcels in Bode and Kern.
So moved.
Move to approve the agenda as amended.
I'll second.
Second, any other discussion? Not all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Minutes of August 25.
And you'll keep the thing.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second,
I'll second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Any general public comments? Larry?
Marty, as part of the Corinth Township community, I want to thank the Humboldt Board of Supervisors and the county employees for getting the crossing over Indian Creek completed. The project is a great investment for the township and the county, which will be used by all citizens and businesses for many generations. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry.
Thank you.
Okay. I suppose we could have Bob Flynn come up.
Got it, son?
What do you want?
We've got a soft seat for you, Robert.
Yeah, all right, I like that.
Good Bill back here.
Morning, Bob.
Morning, Jerry, how are you? Good, John, how are you? Morning.
Have a good drive over this morning.
It was a beautiful drive.
Sun on your back.
Yeah, construction's getting done, and it's a smoother drive.
You didn't drive on Highway 3, did you?
Yeah, yeah.
It's getting better.
It's getting better. Just had one
Big
little
chunk done.
pilot run, wasn't too bad. What do you have on your, is the agenda item the first for the coordinator?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I would, I'd recommend, you proceed with the appointment of Kathy Erickson as the Coordinator of Disability Services for Humboldt. You made just one modification to the job description, and I think that makes a lot of sense. It will be a non-exempt position subject to overtime and still covered by the union, but I think that is still consistent with our vision and reorganization with county social services.
That being said, I'm glad Kathy's on board. I think she's the right fit for our county. She's waded through all of this changes, and I know she struggles at times with some, and I struggle all the time with it, but she's good to talk to about things, and we try to work things out, and I think the help will work well with her, and I appreciate her sticking with us and being our leader. So with that, I'd make a motion to approve.
Second the motion.
Second, any
And
other?
before your vote, I'd like a little clarification, effective when?
There you go.
Make it immediately or the next payroll cycle, whichever's convenient.
Okay, we can make it right away.
Okay.
Okay, and the rate of pay?
I think we discussed a 5% increase from her existing.
Okay, but we don't
Salary.
have dollar amounts? Do you want
I'm sorry,
to
I
figure
don't.
that out?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, 5%?
5%. Mm-hmm.
All right.
Any other questions? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
Well, thank you.
Anything new you should tell us about, Bob, while you're here?
Yeah, yeah.
Go ahead and take a few minutes.
Okay. You may have got an email from the department on the Medicaid offset. We're working through that formula. There's nothing you have to do at the county level. Those numbers are being generated through ISAC and through the region. It was easy for us to make the calculation region-wide, but going back to identify expenditures by county and by residents has made it more complex. It's kind of moving us backwards, if you will. But we think the total offset will be in the range of about $3 million. and then we'll have to figure out what that impact is per county. So if you received, I'm trying to think of Humboldt's, did you receive equalization, or was your per capita, were you below the 4728 per capita? I should know.
We were right at it, we were right at it.
You were right in it, okay. So if you saw a savings, then that would need to be reflected in a reduced property tax levy for fiscal year 2016. And so our charge is to get the numbers into the department by September 19th. They will do their calculation, and then they'll have the levies to the Department of Management by October 15th. So then they'll be hardwired into your software when we get around to the budget year. But then the County Social Services Board will be looking at those across the board, and if we have capacity to do additional reductions based on how we see our budget going forward, that's the conversation we'll be having, and what the gaps may remain in the system. The biggest issue we continue to get confronted with is just finding inpatient beds. Yeah. And so we continue to have the conversation, what would it take to open up some additional psychiatric beds, and so we've got some ideas, and if the money's there, we'll see if we can pursue that. We have scheduled a law enforcement and mental health conference for October 16th. I'm very anxious to see the kind of response and participation we get there. We will have Dr. Armstrong addressing the group in the afternoon. In the morning, we're going to be doing a panel on mental health services for folks who are incarcerated with mental illness. So I hope it'll be a good conference. We've also contacted the Academy to see if we could use the 4 hours as mental health continuing ed, the requirement that law enforcement now have to meet. If we could do that, maybe kill two birds with one stone.
Where's that conference at?
We're going to host it this year in Mason City. It's going to be at the Lime Creek Center, Conservation Center there.
Is it just for your region then?
Yeah, well, we're certainly not going to close it, but the board voted to host and provide lunch for our region. We're going to target, of course, our sheriff partners and any local law enforcement police that wish to attend. And then we'll, of course, have our partners there.
Is the state responsible at all for providing beds? Is this something your region's gonna do?
That's a good question. I think there's really two alternatives. One alternative, and the simplest, would be just for the state to open up more mental health beds at the state institutions. The pressure on the beds at the state institutions is that Medicaid won't reimburse at a state institution. And so that's why the state has continually reduced those beds and tried to leverage the private hospitals as much as possible. What some other states have done, Minnesota specifically, they actually set up 10 community-based 16-bed hospitals, public hospitals, to try to add capacity. We visited South Dakota and then Nebraska just a few months ago. Nebraska set up a 16-bed acute crisis center right next to or adjoining their private hospital to channel all involuntary commitments through. And that seems to be the model that would really address the needs in Iowa, because we really struggle with the commitment process, too. It's very disjointed, and it creates a very different environment in a private hospital where some folks are engaged in recovery and are engaged in their recovery, and then you still have those folks who are involuntarily committed and sitting there waiting for placement or waiting to get into MHI. And so we're trying to figure out how Iowa can reorganize that. So we're going to...
What kind of professional staff do you need? Do you need a psychiatrist then at each of these? And they're hard as him, Steve, to find.
That's right. That's why we've been visiting with Dr. Armstrong and the Mason City Clinic Group. They've just recruited another psychiatrist starting August 1st.
Really?
And so they're thinking they may have the capacity if we eventually decide that's the direction we need to go. But we're very much in the early stages. I've had a few conversations with the Mental Health Disability Administrator, Rick Schultz, about what he sees. There's the theory that we're going to keep adding community-based services and we're going to reduce the need for inpatient. But I've been hearing that argument for several years, and yet still we find people trapped in ERs waiting for a bed. We find people being transported across the state. Folks have even been transported into Minnesota and Wisconsin looking for psychiatric beds. So I think with healthcare reform, I think it gives us another opportunity to readdress this issue.
Is the region considering you have funds to set up transportation? Is that one of the objectives of the region? To take a load off some of our county sheriffs?
Yeah.
Still in a ballgame or possibility?
That's a great question. We've been doing it through the Crisis Center in Waterloo. That was our pilot. We started, that'll be almost 3 years now. That's almost running at capacity now. We run 8 to 9 individuals at our Crisis Center there, and then they do provide the transportation. They'll pick folks up, and then if there's placement or services that they need at the Crisis Center, they'll provide the transportation. For relieving law enforcement, there it really becomes more of a logistical question and a legislative question. How do we incorporate private transportation so that we ensure public safety and we ensure a good process? So we could do it now, but, frankly, we're not organized well enough to do it yet. But that's certainly, again, that's what we're hearing from law enforcement. And again, I think the sheriffs have been pretty good. They're not concerned about transporting as much as when they get to where they're going, then they want...
Then they set their personnel,
right.
the biggest problem.
Right. If they can go someplace and know that the person will be received and taken care of, that will be a huge...
Because if they're not, they could wait there all day and then they come home and go back. It's just gotten to be too much.
Sir Bordeaux Sheriff sat with an individual for up to 48 hours in an ER waiting to find a bed. That was just a few weeks ago. So, and it's really gotten even more complex than just the psychiatric beds. We have some folks with very complex behavioral needs, autism or other organic challenges, that the solution for them really isn't a psychiatric bed. It's really an structured environment that can support, some of their challenging needs. And so we're trying to figure out how to address that as a region as well. So,
A lot going on.
good. A lot going on, you bet.
Is the jury still out on the clawback money, whether the state's gonna take it away from you?
No, it's very clear they're gonna take it away from us.
How much of that can you keep? You can spend it for additional services without giving it back, can't you?
No.
You cannot.
No, but that's what's so strange about the law is that they're saying once they get the money back, they're gonna put it in a pool and use that to reinvest in the regional system to fill the gaps.
Sure they are.
Yeah. So, because we organized early, we've been filling some of those gaps and getting some of those services in place.
So they're allowing them, or we think.
Yeah, we'll just have to see how much money we have after we pay it back.
But things that we're offering now that were new, will we be able to keep funding them?
Hoping so.
I don't like these answers.
But so, well, and again, there's so many moving parts, as Medicaid...
Well, we were talking earlier once too about having a reserve of at least 35%, but that's not even really allowable, isn't 25% kind of what they're wanting? And then they're gonna take everything back from that point, maybe?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah.
And I know what they're thinking too, because if we have plenty of money left and we decide to improve our services, so our region sets a new standard, and what are the other regions? This balancing act is, I think, what's really messing this up. We might be able to do a better job, but if we can do that and some other area can't, that's not gonna fly either, I don't think. So their idea of pooling that money, it sounds good, but if they don't, maybe you give it back to the ones that aren't doing as much, maybe they can't do it as well. So there are issues.
Yeah, there are.
One of the amount of dollars we're dealing with.
Yeah, my biggest concern is the population groups. Only 7 of the 15 groups are covering folks with brain injury, and to me, that's a real gap in the system. And instead of talking about services, we should be talking about those coverage groups. So all the regions should be covering folks with developmental disability and brain injury, because those are the folks that are falling through the cracks, yeah.
Right now.
Yeah. But in terms of the 25%, they didn't put that's in the legislation as kind of advice to the region.
Okay.
But it isn't required, it's not clear what the enforcement on that's gonna be.
Okay.
We're setting at about, we'll come out of this year with about $11 million, which was a little bit below 50% fund balance. But of course, with the Medicaid offset, then that reduces our budget, which makes that fund balance go over 50%. So that's some of the opportunity we have. We have some dollars set aside we could use to invest in infrastructure, or we could use it to reduce property tax levy. The problem with the reducing property tax levy is if you can only do it for 1 year, then you have to go back up again. It's not a great way to do it. So we'll be looking at if there's some infrastructure things, if we identify use for that fund balance, that'll be allowed. And then, again, like you said, we need at least 25% just to cash flow.
Right.
You said the property tax level's gotta go back up to the 47, whatever?
No, it's gotta come down, so it's gonna, but unfortunately, instead of coming down together, we gotta figure it out by county. And so if you had equalization money, then whatever you saved, last year from healthcare reform, then, that portion of the equalization has to be paid back to the state, January 1st.
Because you had reserves to cover that, they're saying.
Well,
What are they saying?
They're just saying if we gave you equalization dollars,
Okay.
and you saved, $50,000,
All right.
then we get 80% of that back.
Okay, that's where they're getting 80% off of. Okay.
Yeah. If you were at your maximum levy and you saved money, then you have to reduce your property tax,
And you look at
The next-
every county individually on that,
every county individually, yeah.
which is 22 or 3 for us now.
Yeah,
It's
I-
just a spreadsheet, isn't it?
It's just a spreadsheet. But, see, the problem is, we were moving forward with this whole idea that we were gonna consolidate and create some equity with the per capita. This takes us back to county by county. I mean, we have some regions where there's counties now fighting amongst themselves
Yeah.
about who is the resident. And we've already started, we have a LAJ, administrative law judge hearing pending, between regions on residents, what constitutes residents. So in some ways, we're going back to...
Yeah, because we were trying to get away from that in the worst way, and right away, the first thing we're going back to.
Yeah, so, such is
life.
Such is life, yep.
Well,
Right.
on this Mason City clinic, does the hospital have room for, a mental health wing or whatever then?
Yeah, we've been, we did some of our tours with Mercy Hospital, and so they're certainly part of the conversation. They're looking at doing some remodeling on their unit. Initially, what we were hoping would happen is the hospital would take on a larger project and build a standalone hospital with separate wards for kind of a small ward for institutional folks, long-term care, and then some for the elderly and young. That doesn't seem to be getting traction now with Mercy. They've got other things, that they're focused
Why can Mason
on.
City take that on, and Berry Hill and 3E and Fort Dodge dumps it? Sure.
Yeah, they close their doors and then they open up, it doesn't make
Is
sense.
there something we can do to get Fort Dodge off the dead center?
Well, I spoke with the former CEO there, and they said their main issue was just psychiatric coverage. They just
Can't get
didn't.
psychiatrists, that's the key.
Yeah.
They can't share with Berry Hill.
Well, they are now. We're really doing some innovative things there. Now, if you go into the ER there and you have a psychiatric need, you can be admitted to the ICU unit, and you used to just be held there until transport to a psychiatric bed when it was available. But now Berry Hill is providing psychiatric monitoring of those units, so you can be discharged if you're stable enough. The psychiatrist will assess you and give you a discharge plan from that unit. So it's kind of a default psychiatric unit. And they are doing some cool things with pre-commitment evaluation, working with the courts there. So if you go to the ER, they do have a telepsychiatrist who can do an assessment and then make a recommendation on the
Can
commitment.
we transport people from our county to there and get services? Possibly?
I think that's what we're working on. Yeah. There was, Ken Hayes has been leading a group, I think they just met, last Friday, and so I think they're working on solving some of those challenges. What we were trying to do with the crisis beds too, is along with the unit in Waterloo, is to get CFR, Community Family Resources, to expand their ambulatory detox unit to accept mental health stabilization as well. And if we could get that operational, then having two alternatives to hospitalization within the region would be ideal. But we still need that inpatient for folks that are truly in crisis, or folks that are civilly committed for
So I
mental
guess the real
impairment.
question to me is why is it so hard to get psychiatrists? Is it just because they don't make enough in this area, or the liability's so high, or is there not enough going into that field? It's gotta be a combination of things, I imagine, but
Yeah.
it seems like we know there's a need, and a need usually gets met when there's money involved, so I guess I don't know what, it just seems like it's been a real struggle to keep psychiatrists, I guess.
Yeah, it's complex. I think it's a combination of all those things. There is an economic element to it, and then drawing specialists to rural areas is a challenge in and of itself.
See, and that's why I like Mason City, if somebody's got pull to get somebody there, that's how you try to get somebody, because to just go out in the middle of Humboldt County and ask for a psychiatrist, you don't have a pull, you gotta have a pull factor or something,
Mhm.
so hopefully, maybe, if you draw two in, maybe you draw three in, I don't know, you gotta try to figure a way to do that, I guess.
We've had a lot of success with our telehealth, so we have plenty of capacity through the telehealth system. So we have 10 of our 22 counties have signed up to have telehealth in the jail, and so we're very excited about that expansion of the
That'll help
building.
too, yeah.
Hope
What
so.
does that involve?
What's that?
Your telehealth in the jail, so that's,
That was a project we invested with Pathways, and they set up a partnership with Doug Wilson, who had been working on this for a few years. He recruits psychiatrists mostly out of state. I think right now his primary one is out of Florida that does forensic psychiatry. And then we have an arrangement where we pay so much per hour, and then the sheriff schedules
Basically,
that
it's
time
for
as
the
they need.
psychiatrists that open slots that they can utilize by telepsych, about what it
Don't you have to have a nurse practitioner or somebody on site with that television at the time?
No.
Just take the deputy and...
Yeah, they're really, as long as they're, as long as they're stable, there does not need to be a clinician on that side. The rules around that have been changing. Used to be, Magellan was requiring a nurse, but what's unique about this is this is all county pay anyway, so we can kind of work around some of those requirements that Medicaid is going to pay for the jail anyway, so TSS is able to pick that up.
so you have 10 counties doing that, are they big counties then, that are doing it?
Well, no, Blackhawk has had a contract with the medical provider for quite some time in the jail, and Cerro Gordo the same way. So some of the larger jails have afforded having practitioners on site. So it's been mostly the smaller jails, and if I started naming them, I'd probably mistaken. But that was one of the reasons for having our conference too, is just kind of get up to date with how we're supporting the sheriffs, what more can we do for them, and again, unfortunately, the jails is one of is one of those access points. And so, not only do we want to make sure they get the treatment if it's needed, but we also want to identify those folks, so when they leave the jail, if there's a mental health issue that's exacerbating their problems with the law, we want to make sure that they know treatment's available. So,
Never is.
thanks for letting
Thanks,
me
Bob.
share.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Need a motion to go into drainage.
So moved.
Second,
I'll second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Just about accessory use.
Okay. Well, I read that article in the Fort Dodge paper, and after that, board meeting, it sounded like taxes were gonna go down in Webster County.
Because of this reassessment. But the way he's talking, it's just for a year at a time. and that-
Yeah,
that-
yeah.
I wasn't clear on that, I guess,
Very good.
Will you be setting out an agenda then for this conference, the 16th?
I'll ask him next, or this month, when we have our meeting, I would think so. Kathy would, I know Kathy, she would probably, I don't know.
Hope they send it to the sheriffs too.
I think they are.
If they could get some transportation people.
Well, I think they are gonna
County
send-
sheriffs, that'd be so
I
helpful.
agree.
Anybody able to go to that meeting?
I think
Wednesday night, the 10th, I got another one going on.
What's Wednesday night?
That's, broadband stuff.
Oh, I got a meeting too, or a supper meeting.
What night is that?
Will you be gone?
I'll be
You'll
be
gone,
gone.
yeah.
Emergency management building.
He's gonna be gone.
See, that starts at what, 6?
I get done at 6, so I could run from one to the other, I guess.
Yeah.
Where was that? I'm gonna get done, but I won't be done till 6, I may be done at 6:30, but I'm not sure. It's in town, isn't it?
Downtown, so.
Oh, there it is.
Falls off, or,
Sheriff's office.
Oh, it's at Pass? Well, maybe I mean, I'm like you, I might be able to run down there 6:30, 6:45.
Yeah.
I'll try to show up if you do. Must be getting ready for drainage hours.
Keep looking, it looks like.
Hey, John. Any farther on the DX station? I mean, I got a couple people ask me about it, I'd really like to see that get moved forward.
I
Don't know.
got a letter from them, I just don't really understand what's in the letter, and I haven't had the lady call me back yet.
Okay,
I think we're close,
okay,
because they did their plan, we have the description that they wanted,
okay.
so we're good there.
Are we waiting, will we need to get an okay back from them after this description, you're thinking?
I don't know what,
Yeah. I mean, we're this close, I don't wanna
I
rush it,
think-
but I do think.
my understanding is, once we did this, it was done, but I get the sneaking suspicion, I don't think that's the end of it, I think they still have to follow through on their plan,
Okay.
but I'm not sure.
All right, if you hear anything, I'll let us know.
Yes.
Morning, Rick.
Morning, Terry.
The floor is yours.
Okay.
Where do we begin? DD 7, 3.
Yeah, a lot of this is just kind of, getting through some motions here as far as appointing people. Did not technically appoint commissioners for several districts that were, you authorized reclassification on. It's districts that fall within 11, fall within 18, and District 7, Sub 3. And we found out that Brent Keenest could not serve on some of the DD 18 ones, so
Correct.
Dick Nave has agreed to be the other commissioner there. So I think on 7 Sub 3, it's, isn't it Pat and Brent.
You know, that's out northwest here.
Yeah,
Pat and Brent.
yep. So we're asking that Pat Hill and Brent Keenest be appointed commissioners for DD 7 sub 3.
Let's take these separate.
I'll make a motion to appoint Pat Hill and Brett Keenan for commissioners for DD 7 sub 3.
There's a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Okay. DD 11.
Basically, this one, the difference is that this would be Pat Hill and Dick Nave as commissioners. We had that whole list, there's like 3 districts and several subs in this, and this would be for all of those.
I'll make a motion to approve Pat and Dick for sub-districts within DD 11.
Second.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Okay.
These are then for the districts within 18, and this would have to be Pat, and Dick again. I'll make a motion, we appoint them.
Second. Second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
Dick just got back from DC on
Oh, did
a
he?
flight,
Okay.
ready to be all pumped up now.
Ready to go. I talked to him about it longer ago, and, yeah.
Okay. We're done for the appointed appraisers.
DD 125 is the new project northeast of Gilmore. We've been working on that design, and you'll see there, the next item is to set a bid date. We've been working with the state engineer on getting that ready to go. So, as part of this, though, there's gonna be right-of-way necessary for a settling basin and another pond to clean the water up, plus then the typical easements that we have, the permanent and temporary easements. So I felt it was important we go ahead and get that appraisal report done, get through the hearing, and see where we're at with that, as far as any appeals.
That's on the value of that land for purchase
Yes.
for this project.
Yes.
How many acres is involved in that, do you think?
Oh, the silt basin's like 2.5 acres.
Okay.
The other pond, for clarifying it more, is about a little over 1 acre.
Okay.
And then we have some of this, though, is so deep that we have a permanent easement like 50 feet wide, and temporary 160 or something like that, so.
So you'd be cleaning this out, and you're saying, to make it larger, or to hold more water, or not? What am I missing here?
Well, this,
Or is this part of the...
most of it's for the tile, the pipe.
Okay. Oh,
Most
it
of
is.
it's for the pipe work.
Oh, it is.
Yep, but we're actually intending to dig I'll just call it a hole,
Right.
Near the outlet of this,
To clean it.
to clean the water.
The water runs, it sets in there.
Sets in there, runs out, and we've done calculations that probably have to be cleaned about every 10 years.
Take the silt out of it.
The silt out of it.
Okay.
Yep, yep.
So
And I
you have
just
to budget for that cost at this time, too?
Yes, that's, and we'll get into that, well, I can just talk about it a little bit now, because we're talking about setting the bid date for September 29th, but I'm also talking about not having the completion required until October 1st of next year. We want as much competition as we can get on this job. We're gonna let the pipe and the installation together. It's gonna have to take a fairly good-sized contractor to do the work. I want them to be able to, I want as many of them as possible to be able to fit it into their schedule so that they're bidding it. If we pushed hard, maybe we could get it done by the middle of the summer next year, but what are we gaining? The crop's already planted. We'll gain way more dollar-wise giving them longer to build it, so.
So the reason we're gonna go with the dual, or a single contractor with the pipe, is there a reason
just the complications.
That we ran into the last time?
It's just been a headache.
I thought
We,
that was your-
you know...
The building part of it's a mess.
Oh, it is. You know, the one before this last one, we fought with Cretex for months over quantities. And,
They can't blame each other that way.
no, that's right, that's right. So I think that saved some money too, but the headaches were, well, you have some idea. So, yeah.
Plus, by putting them together, there's a better chance in my mind that you'll probably get the most reputable contractor.
Yes.
It's gonna take big bucks to front the whole
Yes.
project, and maybe that's where we went wrong on the other project a little bit. I mean,
Yep.
the contractor could bid dirt cheap on what his work is and let somebody else worry about the pipe. This way, he's got a joint
He's got it.
responsibility.
Yep.
So maybe this is...
More responsibility in the contractor's hands, yes. And by giving them enough time, it's a big enough job, we'll get some, I look for CJ Moyna, PCI, I mean, there's several.
Dollar-wise, how many, what are we thinking that might be roughly?
Oh, trying to remember,
Put you on
gone
the
through so
spot.
many different ones here lately.
I guess.
3,000, I could, it's,
It'll be in the millions, though.
yeah, well over $1 million.
Yeah.
But I think it's a little less than 2 construction-wise, but I've run through some numbers that I gave to Mike Borland fairly
That's about what
recently.
our last one wasn't it?
Yeah,
A million,
mhm.
set 9 or something.
Yep, and when you run through the cost per acre average, it's so close to the other one, it's almost scary, like $250 to $260 an acre for the half-inch and $500 for the 1-inch.
On 25% cost.
Yes, yeah, on 75%, yeah.
Now, you'll still inspect the pipes after they're...
Absolutely, yep, we're just, that's gonna be absolutely have to see each pipe before it goes in the ground.
Right, right. in.
And we've called for things like, now we're gonna have it, the last couple here, we've had every joint wrapped, we've had, the smaller tile connections, there's a manufactured insert that we're using. Just, you know, it's up the cost a little, but it's just so much more factor of safety, it's worth every penny.
Well, the recall part costs, will catch up.
It's a nightmare, yeah, yep, that's right.
We're doing our connections where we're gonna bring them out, back out into the solid field and make the
Yes,
connections.
and we're calling for crushed rock under each one as incidental. Just, we've tried to eliminate, you know, most contractors, you don't have an issue with it. But we did have one fail in Palo Alto County where they were being super conscientious, so it still happens, but it's way less common with most contractors. And we're trying to eliminate even that with this back to solid ground.
This one's quite deep also. And
Yes.
I know that's when you get your settling and it pulls the pipes.
Yep. And one thing we're gonna try and work with the landowners on too is to spot some tile connections that aren't necessarily hooked up right now. We just did that in our last Palo Alto one where
So they're available.
they're available. It's right there, they know right where it
We
is.
don't have to tear it into the new system.
That's right. This reinforced concrete pipe, it's a job to cut into. It's such heavy-duty stuff. So if they can just have a connection to tie into. We've been doing those mostly in 8-inch. If you're only gonna run a 4 or 6-inch line, fine, reduce it. But at least you can run an 8, up to an 8 real easily and just connect right to the fitting that's there.
But I think what's nice about that too is if you get those out there away from the main ways, you can gradually bring them back up to what I think the biggest problem we're seeing a lot of times. We go to these contractors, hook them in, and we're just nose down.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not gonna work. I mean, that's...
It tends to pull, 'cause there's
Especially when
some
we use
settlement.
plastic, you
Yeah.
know, and it draws it down with the settlement.
Mhm. You know, the plastic works well in that you can bend it, you can,
Right.
but you need to have rock around it so it doesn't
That
collapse.
cloth that's put over those seams, I mean, in theory, how long would that stay there and keep working?
Oh, it should stay
Forever?
forever. Yeah, it's doesn't degrade.
Because basically what we do when we have repairs on those, and you know, where they're separating, they go in there and they put cloth and cement over them, and
Yep,
it seems to work, but...
yes, it does.
I don't assume 100 years ago they probably used cloth, so...
No, but they use
But
things
it's
like
going up.
straw.
Did they?
Yeah, I mean, we see notes in old reports and old, plans about straw around the joints and putting down straw under
But like Rich
in
says,
quicksand.
on these bigger ones, if you're that deep in the ground, for the minimum amount of dollars, it's just a no, it's
Yeah.
what you'd be doing.
Yeah, that's right.
Eliminate
Yep.
headaches.
Yep. That's gonna be the name of the game here, so.
Okay.
So, yeah,
Do you have to buy, you're gonna help for this pond and so forth with the inn?
Buy the land.
Are you gonna have to buy the?
basically, yeah, it'll be called a permanent easement probably,
Does
but...
that help towards mitigation or not?
No,
No, that's not
no,
good
this, because it's just temporary ponding,
Okay,
So-
okay.
yeah. Yeah, we'll have to
You're
work...
filtering water basically instead of absorbing
You're
it.
gonna have to do any,
Yes, and as a matter of fact...
need to take nitrogen out, it's just
No.
primarily to settle the
Get
solids
the,
out.
right, correct. Good point. Very good point. Yes, that is correct. Yep,
There isn't, like this CREP program and so forth, to take nitrogen out, there isn't a big enough area there to...
No,
do that.
we-
That's any cost benefit?
we looked at that with Mike Borland and his outfit, and no.
No.
They actually sized one, and then, and part of the problem too is that you need to, how do I put this? You need the participation of the landowner, and that probably wasn't gonna happen there, so, yeah. I'll leave it at that.
Leave it at that.
Yeah, so, and that's because we're putting this silt basin where we are, that's another reason I wanna go ahead with this appraisal report, is because I wanna get through the steps and be sure we don't have an appeal, and if we do, that we can get it resolved and move on, so. Because once it's appealed, you can go on with the project, the only change then might be what you have to pay for the land,
Okay,
so.
Okay,
sounds good.
so the time for remonstrance is passed.
Yes, correct. Yes. And Trish was very good about going through those records thoroughly, making sure the right owners were in there. Spent a lot of time just going through it with a fine-tooth comb to be sure, and they did not, ended up, I don't think it was even that really close to a real monstrance in the end.
some dropped off at the end.
Some dropped off, yeah, and did not, object, so. So anyway, long story to get to the point of appointing appraisers, and I think, Pat and Brent, again, have done this before, they both are familiar with...
Recommend Pat.
Yep, Brent Keenest, yep. Yeah, they're very good, they're thorough, they've been around farming a lot, they watch land sales, yeah.
I'd move we appoint Pat Hill and Brent King as appraisers for $125.
A second,
I'll second.
any other discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, set the bid date. the
Okay.
29th.
That's what I'm aiming for. We've got plans and specs ready. I'm gonna do a review yet of them again. The thing that, Mike Borland suggested I talk to you about, no, that's the state engineer again, with, Department of Agriculture. There's an ag well in the south, at the south point of section 29, I don't remember what township that is, but anyway, it's south of where we're originally gonna end our line.
Okay.
Because that was not included originally, there's some notice that was not given to the people there that drain into that ag well. Basically, what the suggestion comes down to is that we go forward with the project and then decide how to handle that area. We will need to do an annexation, of that area and give them notice to what's going on, which is not a big deal. I'll have those acreages and owners probably ready for me when I get back to the office, but,
There'll be willingness to do this.
oh, yeah,
Good.
absolutely, yeah, there's not an issue there.
Okay.
And I think some of them might have got notice on the smaller area, 'cause they had, but like, I can't say, won't be able to say his name, Scott. Yeah, Fry that started, that was one of the petitioners.
Right.
A lot of it's his land,
Oh,
and one homeowner, yeah, that has an
Okay.
acreage, so it's not many. But,
so Mike's aware of it, he's...
Mike's aware of it.
He's working on it.
yes,
Okay.
what we'll do is, the idea is, we'll bid it, we'll include the line down to that ag well as optional. I've got optional bid items worked out where it takes 2,367 feet of pipe to get there, and it will close an additional ag well. So, as long as we include these as optional, we'll have a price from the contractor so that we can go ahead with the work, as long as we have the annexation procedure all taken care of.
So that egg well is high enough that you can just tie into your
Yes,
existing design?
yes, yep. We checked that this spring, got shots on it.
Well, it'll be a lot cheaper doing that versus bidding it separate.
Oh, that's what Mike understands.
He knows what's going on.
Yep, that's right. He said that it needs to be closed, he said, and he's got just a small amount of money left there, that, he'll see where the bids come in, and then he's hoping the money's there that we can add it right away. If not, then it might be, the hookup might be delayed.
He's still working on money for Virgil Williams out here on there.
Yeah.
Can I ask about that,
Yeah.
that Virgil Williams project, that's got an ag well too, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
So
Yeah.
he's well aware of it and working on it then?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And I've got a map for Virgil with me today. I've been in contact with Virgil multiple
I think
times.
you just stay in contact with him that we're working on it, he'll be...
Yes.
Waiting in the wings quite a while, haven't they?
Oh, he
Well,
applied
you know,
so long ago.
He keeps telling me that he don't think he'll ever see it done in his lifetime.
Oh.
I want him to hang on a year or two, and if he does, he'll see it. Well, I want him to hang on a lot longer than that. Minimum! No, I enjoy Virgil, I do. But he applied early, we had a cost estimate, he did the right forms, but it was one ag well. So he was competing against the project.
that have 3, 4, 12.
Yep, 9, 12, yeah.
Makes it
Makes-
competition.
Yeah,
That's why we don't wanna leave this one over here out by itself.
exactly.
You don't get funding later.
Exactly. So, yeah, I'm looking at September 29th at 9 AM, and looking at completion October 1st, 2015. That doesn't need to be part of any motion. And my preference is to include this as optional items and push to get the annexation taken care of so we can build it all at once.
Good.
So you'll close how many wells with this then?
It's either 12 or 13.
13.
No, I think one of those is a quarry one that...
That's a question on that quarry, 'cause when they purchase that land now, that egg well will be closed, and that water won't be going this way, will it?
That's still under discussion. Don Mahoney or something I've been talking to about that. And I just found out one of our techs ends up a classmate of somebody pretty high up at Martin Marietta. So we're gonna find out what their operation is gonna involve. If they
So we
need a
don't know
place
by
to
the
pump,
29th, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
we're gonna know what their pumping procedure is. They have access to it, so I believe there'll be some levy to them. How much that is, I have no idea at this point, but,
'Cause if they start pumping all their water into this, it'll be a lot of water.
yeah, that's right, that's right.
We need to know that, or
We have to know that,
don't we?
yes, we're gonna request that,
Something
yes.
right and pretty
Yep,
detailed.
we've talked to them over the phone about it, and they didn't really know supposedly at the time yet. And it's probably gonna be, well, it won't be till sometime next year for sure that they start opening it up. And I don't know if they're gonna even take anything out until like a year from now or more. But we need to know the operation they're gonna use there.
And, yeah, their future plans and all that.
Yep, exactly. They have to let us know, or we'll just hit them with a high assessment, because we have to allow for them
Fully unknown.
to use it,
How
yeah.
do you know how much water they're gonna pump?
Well, I don't believe it'll be a lot. It'll be like part of a process or something. I mean, they're an open pit where the rain just basically goes away. I mean,
It's so big and wide that it just goes away, you're saying?
pretty much into fractured limestone.
Finds them.
So, yeah. So that's why we need to
Not like a
know.
dirt pond, know.
Right.
We gotta think what we're doing. We're digging
Right,
the
we
rock.
need more
What do they
details.
do if they hit a seam? The one west of me, they started
Mm.
rocking.
Yeah, 'cause I know out here,
And then they
northeast of
hit a
town, they
seam
pump up
and
a
they
lot
were
of water,
pumping. That's one of the reasons they quit, because it was,
'Cause it,
flooded.
they couldn't get the water out.
Really?
Well, that's-
You can't dump that into the tile.
Oh,
That's
No.
what I was, my
No.
concerns were that all of a
No.
sudden, now they start pumping
That's right.
12-inch pump in water
yeah,
year
see,
round.
yeah. See, they,
They'll keep the-
that was an abnormal use, yeah. That's an abnormal use that they would have to get permission to hook up for, and they'd probably, it would probably involve laying a new line part of the way.
Separate for their own.
Separate for their own, yeah.
Well,
Yep,
that's why.
lot of unknowns there.
That's why we gotta get something in writing on that. so
That's
we know
right.
where you're at.
That's right. And that's what we'll base the classification on.
Well, do you need to go to that well if they're gonna,
That's actually a separate lateral that is not part of this that I have here right now.
Oh, that well's not included in this?
No.
Oh, it's
Okay.
not.
No.
okay.
Mike Borland had us look and be sure we could get to it, and we can.
Well,
And
yeah,
it's not a very big line?
Because
No.
why would we hook that up not knowing what they're gonna send us for
Exactly,
water? I mean,
exactly.
you're gonna have-
We're not bidding it at this point.
Oh, that's
It can be added if needed,
That's even better.
Yeah.
That's good.
yeah,
All right.
Okay.
so.
I'm gonna give you this to contact that guy, and I spent a half a day up there, and he keeps calling, and
Okay,
okay, do we need a motion for bid letting at 9 AM on September 29th? Anybody going once?
Sold. I'll do it.
I'll second Gary's motion for September 29th, 9 o'clock.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
To be a good.
Well, I hope.
It'll be a good- yeah, exactly, yeah, exactly. I will, that's gonna be an interesting opening, I'll tell you that.
Legitimate large contractors.
And see how many contractors we have holding plans.
You get the work, you get more people
You'll get
bid,
better
you get
bids.
better
send it
bids.
to Trish.
And we'll be getting the notice out to all the contracting agencies. Anybody of any size belongs to any of those, so they see what lettings are coming up. And we probably have a list of 15 or 20 contractors we'll send it to directly, the notice, that this is coming up. And our secretary at the office is insistent that we don't send the notice until the plans and specs are ready, because she gets calls within an hour sometimes of this notice being emailed to people, send them. So, probably take me a couple days to finish them up, but then we'll get the notice out and get everybody interested here.
So does Trish have a copy of those plans then, or?
I don't think so, not of any consequence.
Ready for publication yet?
No, not quite, they're very close. I have some, well, this was my work copy, I have some construction notes I wanna add. We'll probably email them down later this week. And if I'm in the area for anything else, I will just bring a copy too, but, so. What else is on here? Oh, pay estimate, she's probably checking on that.
So, before we get too far, I mean, are we done with everything except Kevin? Yeah. Okay, I had a call from Don Best last week, and, you know, they got on DD2, HK2, and it's HK2 PA now, or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
So they got that, but the point is, they got like $31,000 or $2,000 assessment for their portion. His concern a little bit was fairly large as being repairs, and then also his concern was, their auditor's concern was that, or their drainage clerk's concern was that now they'll have to carry that a year at 6% interest to, where they'll get the assessments out. That being said, I came in and talked, go ahead, Trish, what do you
We don't
say?
usually have them do a 6% interest,
You don't on those?
no.
Maybe you could explain. I think the auditor's gonna call, or the drainage clerk's gonna call you, get a hold of
I talked to
you.
her before and I said, we don't,
End of the week? You haven't talked to her since Friday, probably. Well, anyway, I said I'd looked at them, you know, with Trish, and, you know, we had a couple of cleanouts, you know, that were from trees that were 10,000, we had some cleanouts for, repairs. This, basically, I think this is this the one right there on our portion, is that our share? I believe it is, probably. 'cause we did a tile replacement, a partial tile replacement, maybe it was just something else.
Oh, this, yeah.
Is that?
This one is DD six, lateral A1.
Oh, okay.
For Yumna.
All right, it looked like
Yeah.
a dollar amount,
Last sheet, yeah.
Yep.
But, really, we pieced that out, but I guess the dollar amount, he was concerned how we got to what was the total, 160,000? But we had remember when I stopped in on Thursday, talked to you for Wednesday?
Was that where we cleaned out that lateral ditch and trees and, Peterson's, I thought we were under.
Do you want me to look right now?
No, you can look afterwards. I think they're gonna call and want copies of, it's a joint district, so there's no
Yeah.
problem sending that. What I basically told Don is, send it all over to them, look it over, and then if you have questions, maybe we have just a phone conference, joint meeting or something, or maybe you
Sure.
have to talk to them just to clarify what was going on, so.
Sure.
So you're saying how do you carry that then if there's 30,000 they have due, if there's no interest on that? The county just carries it? Okay.
It's an outstanding
Outstanding
bill,
bill,
but they
okay.
can't do anything until the following year of
Right.
levying it.
Right, and that was one of her
And
concerns.
my levies were late because I was waiting for stuff from,
You didn't have all the stuff in to put a levy out there apparently, huh? All the bills, you mean?
I levied.
We did get levied, but, yeah, probably
But
right
I
at the
had-
last minute.
I waited until.
Okay.
long time.
All right, we'll just talk about it after.
Okay.
I just wanna make sure the bills, I know you can do that, but, he was just wanting to make sure, well, if it was this much work, why wasn't it like a bidded project? Well, I don't
Oh.
think we didn't do a complete tile replacement, we didn't do a complete ditch cleanout.
No,
Several things under 20,000.
yeah. It was different
So
contractors.
about 8 of those things can add up pretty fast.
Well, yeah.
Okay.
In over a few years.
See, that was the other thing, it's been several years on this. Would there have been a way to have gotten an assessment out early on part of that, or not necessarily? Okay. Okay, I don't think it'll be a problem, I just think you want
Yeah.
clarification on what
Sure.
this percentage was and what work went, but, Don just wants to be thorough on what.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So,
Just wants to know what was done, so.
told you we'd be thorough on this. Okay.
All right.
Okay, we're down to DD six, lateral A1,
Mm-hmm.
J.M. Summit for $94,916.99.
Got a copy of this too.
You may not have, because it was done late last week, and I think it was just,
You can look at it.
Quickly, I guess. Look at it.
he's got a lot of the previously stockpiled materials now installed, so we zero out the install items and then put the dollars back in, as installed. So it all comes out in the end, but, it went real slow to start with, they're making a lot better progress, the soil's been
Yeah, it's
good.
moving along pretty good now.
Yeah, yep. This week doesn't sound good, but, yeah, he's been moving along real good now. There's
Well,
one,
did he pull any more help in too, or not?
I don't know, the times I've been out there, he wasn't there.
I know earlier there was a couple guys working at at a slower pace, but it was slow when it was wet.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna get out there today yet, hopefully before it rains.
So, will they be lining up a person to put in the new bulkhead
Coming
now?
out.
Yeah, it's wet out.
They're...
Is it?
Will they be doing...
Yeah. Yeah, he's got somebody in mind for that work, yep, and that's all permitted by the DOT, we've got the permits for that ahead of time.
You
and-
got that all cleared up?
Yep, so,
And then you're gonna still put an intake along that fence line?
Yes.
40 for me?
yep. I looked at that again the other day.
Did you? Okay.
Yep.
You can see what I mean, there's a lot of surface water
Oh,
coming.
a lot.
If you catch some there, that'll keep, because the thing I have a little concern is that it's so low, the dirt will keep washing, and we don't want to keep as much cover on the tile as we can.
Yep.
And we don't want to send that dirt down to that bulkhead, because I have a feeling that new bulkhead probably will be not as high or not as thick as the old one.
Right.
There's no way it'll be as good as.
Oh, that old one was
I've
a
never seen
beautiful
bulkhead
thing.
any better than that.
Oh, yeah,
That's why they couldn't get it broke loose.
that's right, that was a work of art.
It's supposed to be signed.
But all this,
Oh, Yeah, Harlan.
Carl, I'll have to sign this one, okay?
If we determine to pay it.
Well, if we get a motion to pay it.
Come on, you boy.
I'll make a motion to make pay estimate number 4 to Yellen's excavation.
For a second?
I'll second it.
Second. Any other discussion?
No.
Not all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Anything else, Rick?
I mentioned the drawing for Virgil. Williams was interested in where we found the tile out through his ground and some others. And we were out there 2 different times. We did topographic survey of the big area, and then another time, months later, we got the location of the existing tile, so we could pin down where things were, the sizes, and what it would take to do the project. He's requested a drawing showing where we found that old tile, so I brought copies for him and a copy for Trish today to have for his use.
I think that's where a little confusion was when Verge called the first time with his brother. I think they thought you were out doing the same thing twice.
Right.
You were really doing 2 different things.
Yeah, so
Hopefully you got that all cleared up.
Yes,
Okay.
the stories get started, yeah, the rumor was that we lost the information we got the first time, so we were back out there again. No, we didn't lose it.
That made sense, but
No.
there had to be a reason you went back
No.
out, but it made sense.
Yeah, we did topographic survey of the land, and then months later, we went back and dug up the tile and got those spot locations, and all that is on this drawing that I'm gonna give to him. I'm hoping to get a hold of Mark Dickey today. He was hoping there would be a pond on his ground as part of this 125 project, and it's not real big, but we do have one there, being funded, 3/4 funded, so, it didn't meet any other criteria. Yeah, it's just north of the gravel road.
Yeah.
North of Ames,
On his
just
acreage
on,
out.
yeah, yep,
sure.
so,
North of there? Okay.
yeah, it's just north of the gravel road, so. I'm hoping I can catch him and just show him what we've got on the plans, just so he's kept informed on what's going on.
And then you've talked to, Bob Lynch on the bill was shown. right?
Yes, yeah, and we're pulling all those together to summarize them and have them in one file.
Okay.
'Cause I think there's one I don't have that Trish has, and there's a couple I have Trish doesn't have. So we're trying to get all that summarized, so we really know what we've got.
Try to get that
Yep,
in here. before too
and
long.
probably gonna end up paying Shown and then withholding the appropriate amount from Shaney's, because it's drug on too long.
So, and in talking to Shaney then, did he have any interest in any re-leveling or?
Some interest, I'm trying to talk him out of it, just,
Wish they would talk him out of it.
yeah.
Okay. Just work on
Because
it.
when the landowners do it themselves or hire somebody directly, they tend to be happier, because they know the people, they know they're doing the job for them, so.
Especially where there's several that probably wanna do their own too.
Yeah, that's right. The answer I got was, they still wanna think about it, but they're probably okay with the landowners doing it, so. But I gotta pin them down.
Yeah.
Gotta,
I know,
so. That's all I can think of.
That's it?
I think so.
We got Kevin Fuller here with drainage.
Oh, yeah, yep.
Kevin?
First, I appreciate your time. I received my drainage assessment in the mail, and after I got over the initial,
So did I.
after I got the initial sticker shock, I finally got a chance to get up and talk to Trish a little bit. I found out that inadvertently, some charges have been charged to a drainage district that should have been charged to a different drainage district. I totally understand that mistakes happen, that's not the real reason I'm here. I talked to Trish, and the reason I'm handing out these 2 handouts here, these are 2 parcels of land I have. One's a real estate assessment bill, the other's my drainage assessment bill. If you look at the real estate assessment, there's a lot of information on here. It tells you where it's at, it gives you, the number of acres that it concerns, it gives you the assessment, the tax values, everything else. Unfortunately, our drainage district comes out just simply, here's your bill, pay it. There's a lot of difference between this and this. I talked to Trish and I said, why can't we get similar information on our drainage district bills that we have on our real estate bills? It's a software problem. And I guess I'm here to talk to Supervisor, you know, after I talk to Trish, I've got other questions now, which when you're retired and have anything to do, you think of things to ask questions on. But like when I was talking to Trish, she said, we're one of the very few counties in the state that deal with drainage on a basis that we do, and that the software vendor really does not, you know, this vendor for this doesn't really work with this. And I guess my question is, if the vendor either is unwilling to offer this, why don't we look for a different vendor? Or go to that vendor and say, we need this information. And the only reason I'm bringing this up is, on this piece right here, it's a 9-acre tract. It shows us, you know, net acres is 6.56 acres. This just simply says lies south of the creek. And when you start dealing with drainage, you know, you can have a parcel of land that could be in 2 or 3 different drainage districts, so you have no idea how many acres this is for. I mean, everybody's got, you know, at least one chunk of land that's in 2 or 3 different, you know, drainage districts, and it'd be kinda nice to know that when I'm getting a drainage district assessment on $100.45, to know if that's the full 6 acres, or if it's 4 acres, or what it is. It'd be kinda nice to know, to be able to pick that up, because the only reason I came to talk to Tricia was, I'll be very honest, you know, the past years, and granted, my drainage assessment's been low, I'm not complaining about that at all. Past years, when I'm looking at total drainage assessment on 200 acres of $110, $115, and I've got 6 acres getting assessed $100 alone, kinda made me wonder what's going on. And that's what prompted the questions, where we found out that some things were billed to 29, I think it's supposed to be, is it 69 or whatever it is, I can't remember, isn't it 11 or whatever? There's another district that drops down into it.
Right.
Which, and I can understand how the mistake was made, you know, that's not the issue. But it'd be nice, you know, if somebody doesn't really know what they're looking for on this, they wouldn't ask any questions.
Rick, what have you seen? You ever seen anything more in detail, or what, is there any software out there?
Usually, it's very little information on these. I live in a drainage district in Emmett County, and but it does say what, it gives the parcel, I'm trying to remember if it gives the area. Mine are different because there are lots and blocks, but,
Okay.
in a subdivision, rural subdivision. So,
I guess the other part of it is, you know, when you get, you know, for your real estate taxes, prior to receiving this, you get some accounting, you know, like some semblance of, here are the charges, you know, granted, the amount of levies, the millage and stuff like that, that's all something that's neither here nor there. But you get a current assessed value, you get a taxable value, you get things like that.
Right.
On drainage, we just get a bill. I guess it'd be kinda nice that, you know, when this bill comes, if we could at least have an accounting of it. You know, it doesn't have to say so-and-so person or whatever, just simply such and such contractor received X number of dollars, and all of a sudden that might feel a red flag as to, well, hold it. There was work done, but it wasn't done here, it was done someplace else. So I guess I'd like to make a request, at least have that information available. I'd really like to help Trish out, because right now she has to basically manually enter all this stuff in.
Right.
And that, I hate to say it, in this time of our, you know, of technology, that's absolutely ridiculous. She should be able to just push a couple of keys and have that information available to her, to where she could go ahead and send it out to people on drainage and stuff. That's the main reason I'm doing it. Since, like I said, since I've talked to her, I've naturally thought of some other questions, but that's the main purpose I wanted to talk to you
Kevin, with
about.
regard to your request, I know you talked to me about once, and I mentioned something to Tricia. I don't know anything about the software, but I had another request for another farmer, the same request. It was a ditch clean out. After we told him what it was, he's fatty.
That's the thing, I had someone also mention that they get the assessment, they don't know what it's for.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, all you do is just get a bill, is all it really is, just a bill. It doesn't tell you what it was for, it doesn't tell you what the total amount was, and this is your portion, it's just simply,
I would
here.
love to do that. I would love to say it's for some, you know,
it would answer a lot of questions, it'd cut out a lot
But
of costs.
how do you get there?
There's software out there.
Take your hours and hours, sit there and enter manually.
well, with these, I enter every parcel in that drainage district, including the tax ID number, the acres that are within that drainage district, the units of benefit, and then it pulls it from the real estate side and uses their information on addresses based essentially is all I get. And, then it generates this report essentially. But I would love to be able to integrate something that says, you know, here's your drainage assessment, maybe on the back, you know, side of, right now it says tax information on how to pay your property taxes is what.
Well, I didn't have to look at that, that's just.
Yeah. And it's the same thing for real estate property taxes as it is for drainage taxes. The statement on the back, if we could have plain ones that said nothing, I could maybe integrate it. But I levied, probably 30 different districts this year, and for me to go in and individually on every one of those,
Couldn't do it.
it would, well, and,
Be 1,000.
oh, it'd be more.
More now.
DD 13A and 80 was
Yeah.
over 2,400 and some.
Yeah, I think we did everybody a favor by taking that one on, that was a lot of work.
I guess that's what I'm, I guess I'm approaching the board to try and find a solution to this. Like Trish said, it'd be, what she said just now, it'd be great, on the drainage district assessment, say, here's the amount, here's your acres, here's your, benefit, things like that. For them to look at it and people go, oh, okay. Well, they're still not gonna be happy.
No, but at least
they're
they're
happy.
happy.
At least they have an explanation as to what they're being charged for.
And how it broke down.
Yeah.
Well, and I put the information in on the acres, on how many are in there, so I don't know why I couldn't pull it over anyway. But I've talked to Solutions before, and they've been, because we're such a small group of drainage people, there's probably a handful of us
That are like this.
that use this, that it isn't cost prohibitive for them to put a lot of money into it. I guess is the best way to say it.
To that end, then, if Solutions isn't willing to work with you,
I'd find somebody
there might be another vendor that would be.
Yeah, but Solutions does
Everything for it.
everything. It ain't-
No, and I understand that, but I mean, but if there's another vendor that could take an interface with them to offer an end to this, that would be, I think that'd be great to at least pursue it and find out. Because right now, it's just a matter of you get a bill, and unless you think something looks odd.
Let me ask this.
Yeah, or it's extremely high.
Yeah.
Let me ask
Yeah,
this,
then
Trish,
you
then
explore it a little deeper.
if Solution already has a database on this county, in theory, wouldn't it seem like they could do it cheaper than somebody just coming in to do just drainage? And if that's so, could we set up a meeting with Solutions and explain our problem as from the Board of Supervisors standpoint versus?
I would love it.
Well, let's try that, because my problem is, if we go out and try to reinvent this.
Yeah,
I have a database, I think they're gonna really,
No, I think
Well, why not try to-
I think your answers with Solutions, it's just a matter of explaining
maybe
that
that down.
Well, we need,
Yeah.
This is why we would like this, what can you do? And then if they said, well, this is gonna be costly, but this is what it'll cost, we at least have a cost number, we don't have
No,
nothing.
I got one from Wright County, and it's on this district identical to this, they use Solutions.
well, that's good.
And then maybe
It's probably not out there to use. They
And then
need
maybe if
to
it's
come up
something
with.
they would consider, maybe we go to Wright County and Pocahontas County and the ones that have drainage, they would be willing to, I think you'd have to get more than just Humboldt County on board, that would be the
Correct.
right approach, I think.
Go to Palo Alto too, they've been very active the last
See, if
couple
we
of
could
years.
get 10 counties that really have drainage issues, I think you'd have more clout with Solutions.
Oh, I agree, I
Humboldt's not-
wholeheartedly, I'm
we're
just
gonna have a-
saying, I'm just trying to get the ball rolling to try and get some, resolve on this. Like I
Right.
say, if it takes,
Might take
and
2
you're
years.
right, if one county goes to Solutions, they're just gonna say, nah, it's not worth it.
Yeah.
You get 10, 15 counties going together on it, and not just in Iowa, but we'll say wherever else. If you get a larger group to go and say, this is a need we have,
Right.
then they'll be far more receptive to that concept.
Can the Iowa Drainage District get involved in any of this?
Yeah, they could.
I mean, Harlan's like chairman on that board, I think he'd have clout with us too on that.
I think it would help with a lot of the phone calls, and a lot of the visits I get.
Mm.
Oh, yeah, a lot of people.
Well, I
get
think
it.
long-term, the database would be good long-term, once you get it, it would take
Well, I can't see it
time.
would be that difficult. You already got the information in the computer.
She's entered some of it even.
Well, she has-
That's what I'm saying,
Yeah.
if she's pulling from Solutions anyway, utilize
You know
what we
the
have.
acreage already, it's there.
The parcels,
It's in there.
Yeah,
It just isn't pulled over.
to me,
On
that's,
a-
that's a good plan.
that's just a little program.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, let's pursue that, we can set a meeting up with them.
This year I put a half sheet, just to save on postage, and so it was kind of small, but I had to stuff every little half sheet in this envelope, plus I had to put, the waiver statements, if they were blue, they were 10 years, if they were yellow, they were 5.
Sure.
I mean, it just makes a lot of extra weight and postage and time.
Well, that being said, I think maybe a better approach would be to have contact the drainage clerks from the surroundings county as just an informal starting point. Invite any supervisors that would like to come along for input, and get input from 5 of these people. I mean, I think it has a lot more clout with your company you're working with, if you say, hey, you wanna do this, or we'll try and find somebody else that can do it. But I mean, if you're saying other auditors, you know, if we get Wright, Pocahontas, Palo Alto, Cassuth, there you go.
They do a bunch.
I mean, that'd be a good, in Webster, there'd be 5 counties, I think we'd have a little more clout.
Webster has their own
What?
IT person, they have their
Oh,
own
okay,
system.
so don't include them for right now. But still, that being said, I think there'd be some
It would be
merit.
interesting to get one from Webster County and see what's on there.
Well, yeah,
See how theirs is
see what theirs
broken
looks
down.
like. Maybe bring that up, or get a copy of it, so we could show the solution people, and say, well, this is what they're doing, can you do this, match this, or anything better?
Maybe they're not even doing it either.
Wonder if they
They might not.
do anything, talk to ISAC, could they put it on an agenda for anything like that?
ISAC doesn't do
They wouldn't
a lot.
talk.
No, I think Iowa
Talk
Drainage
about
District,
it.
you know, might be able to help us a little on this.
That'd be an interesting topic.
Well, it appears that other members have been having these questions too, so I mean, it wouldn't be totally out of line. If we came back and said it was gonna cost you,
A lot.
you know, but if, Kevin, we came back and said it was gonna cost you $5 extra per report, you have to wait if you accept that, or, you know, I mean, or maybe it's only 50 cents, we don't know
Because we
it.
don't know, I mean, I'm just
I
tossing the
think
idea
what-
out to try and get conversation on it.
But the key would seem to be get several counties to develop a plan, so it would be uniform for everybody.
Try and make Trish's job easier.
Because there's the next question, there's our landowners that have land in 2 or 3 counties, adjoining counties, so it'd be simple for them to have the same thing, so. All right.
Well, and for me to get reports, some of my reports don't come.
We'll give those back to Kevin. No, you keep, that's got your stuff.
I'm sure it's got my
Oh,
name
just
on
keep
it.
it. Somebody else.
You're gonna be seeing my checks later, it doesn't make a whole lot of difference.
We gotta put it in.
See the check.
Just sign this for me, Harlan, okay?
Well, I think it's a good idea to look into, but I think the approach has gotta be unified with some other counties, and I think we can maybe do something.
On the DD 13A, they were like, no, sorry, can't have it.
Hmm.
I'm like, no. I export a lot of this stuff into Excel or into Access just to try to manipulate what I have, and
They gotta make enough time, they gotta send somebody out to meet with us.
Well, I think if they knew 5 counties were interested, they would start paying attention, because otherwise they're gonna be looking to go somewhere else. It might be something they could provide cheaper than what they thought if they look into it, so.
So as I was done with my conversation with Trish on this, that as I was driving home, all of a sudden it just struck me in my head that since some of these charges were inadvertently charged to this district, do I go ahead and just pay this dollar amount, even though that will change, because part of these charges will be sent to a different drainage district? Do I pay these now? Excuse me for using this phrase. Do I get reimbursed with worthless warrants? Or what happens?
Worthless warrants.
Worthless warrants. I can't even pay my property taxes with your warrants. If you give me a warrant, I should be able to pay my property taxes with it, from you guys. All I'm simply saying is the county treasurer will not take your warrants. There's something wrong with that. You're gonna give it to me and send me a 1099 on an IOU. County treasurer should accept that as payment, and they will not. So that's a worthless warrant. First time in my life, my attorney does my taxes, said, I cannot believe they are sending me a 1099 for an IOU. And the explanation in this office here was, we've always done that. Well, just because you've always done something doesn't mean it's correct. I shouldn't receive a 1099 for that warrant until it is redeemed.
but you're gaining 6% interest
And I'm
on
being
the
charged,
moment that
and I'm
it's
being
going.
charged 6% interest at the same time, so my interest is 0.
Can't you cash that into the bank?
I did, because they didn't catch it was a warrant. They thought it was a check.
They've always taken warrants. They took warrants from the landfill when I first was on the landfill.
I'm just asking a question, my original question. Do I pay this amount even though there are charges that will be transferred to a different district?
I don't know if they'll be transferred, will they?
I don't,
They need to be because,
honestly,
they need to be because it's a different drainage district.
I don't know that for sure though.
I know exactly it is, because it's in a two places we talked about are in a different drainage district altogether. That should be assessed to that drainage district, not to this drainage district. Otherwise, if that's the case, just take all your charges for the whole county.
But if the
Throw it in one big pot and
the
divide it out
original
there.
work orders were wrote up with those districts the way they're saying, how could they be in the wrong districts?
I don't know, when I wrote them up in, the first one was written up in DD 29, November 9th of 2011, and that's when Kevin called in and said Harlan said to put in a tin whistle. There was a washout of a tin whistle into it's this field now. Kevin spoke with Harlan and gave verbal approval. Kevin said Conrad Clark of Fort Dodge is there to do the repair. I wrote verbal approval. Harlan signed off it on the 21st of November.
Now, that one is in the right district?
No,
That's the one that's questionable.
Okay.
that's one of the two, there's one for Gary Adams also. The
And
sheriff.
the Gary Adams one was a separate one completely.
Right.
Because while we're talking about this, something else that also enters into this is our $20,000 we spent because we can do it, because we don't have to ask anybody. Was that all charged into 29? Or was part of that also charged into, is it 11, or which one, what's the other district? 11.
11 is where you're speaking, that's where we had some of the clean out stuff.
Right, because see, that's also part of our $20,000 that comes down that we didn't have, nobody had anything to say about, because we just spent it, just because we could spend it. Part of that should also be in 11, or was that all charged into 29?
Come again, what?
I'm missing that.
That the $20,000 was spent as a quote-unquote non-clean out, just maintenance, because it could be spent, because we can just spend it. And I talked to the board about that at that point in time, that there's other places to spend that $20,000 at. Was that $20,000 completely charged into Drainage District 29, or was part of it in 29 and part of it in 11?
Almost all of it was 11. I'd say all of it was 11.
And that's incorrect, because that's, 11 is a very, very, very small part of that clean out on Blake Run Trail.
We didn't do any clean out on 29.
Yes, you did.
Are you talking about the outlet part?
No, I'm talking of, no, it was $20,000 was spent as maintenance. There was a request made by a landowner, that they thought it'd be really nice if that ditch was just a little bit, just dipped out of the bottom of the ditch. They started approximately 2.5 to 3 miles west of the, Bode, Rutland Blacktop, and came all the way to the Highway 160. In fact, they went 100 and some odd yards east of the Highway 169 bridge.
And that was Rick Peterson?
Yes, it was, and when you get over 1 mile west of 169, you're in Drainage District 29. When you're at 169, you're in Drainage District 11.
Well, both of those cross 169. Don't they, or meet there?
I thought Rick's work was all
Right
in
here.
11.
Rick's was
No.
all in 11, right up here.
Goes
And
across
this
a
is
little bit.
29. Let me grab my flare.
Yeah, I thought Rick's was all in
See, what happens is, you're all familiar with where my mom and dad used to live on the highway. Okay, where my folks' farm is on the highway, the bridge right there at 169, when you start going back the creek to the west,
You're talking north of your folks?
right north of my folks, yes, right north of my folks. The Bloody Run Creek that runs back to the west, it runs back and meanders back and forth like a snake. When you get a mile west, there's a bridge back there. That bridge is in Drainage District 29. Highway 169 bridge is in Drainage District 11. Because 11 cuts down has like a little blob that comes down this end, the rest of 29 comes up around.
The only bills that I have in 29 is from that Conrad Clark,
Goes way over.
Al Brandwey, B&W Weed Control,
Right.
and IDDA dues. That's the only thing I charge to
29.
29.
You have how many claims? You have Clark, Brandway,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Then my question even gets more complex, because if you only have 5 claims, they must have been astronomical for a 6-acre tract to have $100 assessment on. When the work that was done wasn't even on that, the creek that runs through that portion of that land isn't even the creek any of the work was done on. It's farther away than a tract that sits closer, and I'm getting assessed, or I'm getting charged 5 times what a tract that lays right next to the creek was.
Yours is because the tile runs through that part?
Not this part here, it doesn't. This is south of the creek, this is the only tile on this here is my tile. You guys don't have any tile on this.
South of the creek?
South of the creek. South of the, no, not south of Bloody Run Creek, there's 2 creeks. There's the little creek south that doesn't even carry any water.
29.
Yeah, the one's basically is a coyote run. I mean, I got $100 drainage assessment on 6 acres. It has none of your tile in it. It is approximately 3/4 of a mile from the creek they had all the work done on it. And it's assessed more than anything else I've got.
Well, here's the tile right here. Are you, there's a tile that goes north?
Rutland
Do you
Township?
have a flat book?
Yeah.
In Rutland Township, There's this creek here, here's a reading bed,
Yeah, right between.
okay. The plot, the piece I'm looking at, I got this little chunk right here, there's a fence comes across here. This is the 6 acres I'm talking about, right there. This is Bloody Run Creek, that all the work done on it. You see 11 comes down here, this creek comes back in through here.
Well, that creek goes on that way.
Well, no, that's a
But
spur,
this little piece you're talking
that's a
about
spur,
here.
that's a spur that goes up into Gary Adams's and Warren Woods. The main creek goes back in through here, in from back here. So,
No creek there, so that's a divide line.
Where's your,
right here, the creek piece I'm talking about is right here, right there.
okay. And that's closest to this
This south,
drainage
which
district,
hasn't had anything done in this creek here.
which is the DD 29, where
DD
Conrad
29.
did.
That's Conrad's.
Conrad did the work up here.
When it was called in, it was under 29.
Well, like I'm saying, it was inadvertently entered into the wrong district, which I understand mistakes like that happen. I mean, that part I don't have an issue with that. I mean, I understand it was inadvertently put into the wrong district. I'm just trying to find out, for a correct accounting on this, the work that was done by Conrad Clark should be in Drainage District 11, as opposed to Drainage District 29.
Now, I do have stuff for Conrad in 11.
That should be Gary Adams's,
I do have Gary Adams's is in there.
right? And there should, and the work you have at 29 that was done for me should be in Drainage District 11.
Actually, it's Gary Adams and Mike Ludwig. 29 was putting riprap in the,
Stabilization, wasn't it?
yeah.
Well, there's a tin whistle that had been incorrectly repaired several years ago. It was repaired correctly, taken care of. It sits approximately a maybe 1,000 yards west of, Highway 169 bridge on Bloody Run Creek. Switching drain, it's in Drainage District 11.
I got charged mobilization from Conrad for 2 miles.
It doesn't matter, it doesn't matter what the charges are, it's where it's billed to.
That was in 29.
It's 2 miles what?
2 miles from the unit to the ditch on Kentucky Avenue to something.
That'd be down here. There's Kentucky Avenue.
That's part of
There's 29.
And see, I had Conrad in. Conrad
That's
went
not-
over some of this
but
with me
isn't-
too.
This is the south of Montgomery South.
Yeah, that's 29.
Yeah, there's no work on it.
Well, that's what that's what he did. Well, her statement, that's what I'm saying, that's what
He turned in.
sent in the bill for.
And he came in and spoke with me several times over this, and he showed me on the map where he went, because I was questioning all this with the mobilization, and he showed me his route, because he couldn't go this way, and he showed me on here where he said it did repairs. Whether he was not correct, I don't know. That was, I'm just going from what he's showing me on. That's 11.
That's what, Conrad's work on, my place was done right here. Gary Adams did right here, and I'm assuming this was up in the command and back over here.
There it is here.
Right here, so it would be, this is, where's Kentucky Avenue?
Right here.
Right here.
Yeah.
Say, Kevin?
So there's work done here, and down, that's all on the other, isn't it?
Well, she turned it in for Kentucky Avenue down here.
So that's,
So he turned it in and got recorded that way. Well, that's the way the work order was
Well,
going.
that's what he hand wrote
well,
here.
all I'm saying, you know,
Well, yeah, that being-
It really doesn't matter.
That being-
It's a correctable mistake.
Right.
Yes.
I'm just trying to find out what's gonna be the process for correcting it, because there's, to me, I'll be very
Well, I
honest,
would-
if I'm a property owner in District 11, and I'm paying for drainage district work done in District 11, or if I own in 29, and if I'm paying for work done in 11, that needs to be corrected.
My guess, and this,
District for it, yeah.
my guess, and this is a guess, but the way the system works and the way the tax collecting works, some of that's already been paid by people that maybe you shouldn't have, you're saying, and if that proves out to be correct, I think everybody has to go ahead and pay their bill, and at some point, the only way to work it out is to have a reimbursement from one district to the other, or charge, I mean, it's gotta be taken care of going forward, it can't be taken care of going backwards, I don't believe.
I agree, but that's the question I'm asking, is how will that be handled? Is it gonna be...
We don't know yet. I
Reimbursement
don't,
between districts? Is it gonna be a reimbursement back to landowners? Is it gonna be, you know, how's it gonna be? Now, that's the only question I'm asking.
Hold on, I'll
It's
get you.
nothing that has to be done
No.
today.
Yeah.
We gotta verify that it was a mistake. You reimburse districts, it'll just go in that district's account. It'll sit there until you use it up.
That's what I'm trying to...
That would be the easiest way to do it, if it's gonna be done.
Would that be, so, for all intents and purposes then, Drainage District 29 should have a quote-unquote credit for the next time assessments would come around. I mean, as long as, if it's gonna be handled that way, that's fine, I mean, I don't have an issue with that.
Yeah, it's gonna come.
I just think people need to understand that that's what's gonna happen, instead of people expecting a check back or something like that.
Janet's gonna be here just a second.
Because I haven't levied 11 yet,
Have not.
no,
Oh.
because we still had those subdistricts we were working on,
Yep.
so.
Janet, tell her what our, or tell Janet what our problem is, Trish, or where we're at, and then maybe we can see what our options are. If you, or Kevin, either one of you, Kevin, go ahead. In your mind.
Essentially, we had a work order submitted for the wrong drainage district. It was submitted for 29, it should have been 11. we received our drainage assessments for District 29. And my question is, how will it be handled going forward? You know, we pay our bill for 29, but yet 29's paying for improvements in District 11. How does that get sorted out in the future? Is that just gonna be a credit into 29 from 11? How will that be handled?
We can do like a miscellaneous receipt transfer from one fund to another
That's
that
what I
way.
thought. Going forward, we can correct it. Backing it up is harder.
Well, backing up, I don't think needs to be, I just think people need to know for the future what's gonna happen.
Yeah, correcting, like reversing everybody's tax payments would be
Doesn't
a
work.
mess.
No,
But yeah, we can do a transfer from one fund to another, from one general ledger fund of a
Yeah, you know, listen, that's just a correction for a
We're over.
work, or, you know,
But then-
misdirected work order or whatever.
Then
Go
it
ahead.
isn't applying to the same person,
That's true.
and the
Just
same
fixing the
benefit.
fund. It affects the whole.
So either I would have to reimburse the 29 people, sometime here, or else I'd have to carry a positive balance in 29. So there's really only two ways to do it.
Well, right, you would be carrying a positive balance
in
for
29.
repairs.
Probably never get it back to that particular individual though. Cost you more to do that than me.
Because I couldn't credit it within 11, do it within 11, because it's not the same people. We'd like to do a
There's more,
miscellaneous
there's
transfer.
some of the same, but not all of it.
But not all of us.
And their benefit portions
Will be
are
different.
completely different, and figuring out the difference in that would be tough. So I don't know.
So the districts are probably gonna be straightened out, but people never will be. Never.
I'm not sure either.
I don't know, what's it take to credit them back after they've paid?
You're not gonna just run a claim against 29?
Into 11, I can't do that. Well, if I write it from, I'd still have to reimburse.
This is where they
people
took
like 29.
concrete from your hog buildings?
That's a different one. There were two issues, or two,
Projects.
So this is DD 29.
11.
Tim Nicole votes on that one, is how I had it. Because I had a phone call from Kevin the 14th of November that wanted to know about the price of riprap. Well, then after that, we decided that they could use the walls if they took out the rebar and what have you as riprap. But then I also see there's a charge for stabilization rock, or
Yeah, riprap,
he charged,
154 tons.
I guess the question I'm asking is, you know, you can hash over the bill all you want to, I'm just trying to figure out, I'm just trying to get charged to the correct district.
Has 11 already been,
that'll be next year.
Basically, when you
you're
refund it
talking
back.
29 people? I guess
So,
that's the
how many people?
cleanest way to go is, so we're gonna write 29 checks.
Oh, I don't know.
I know Kevin called me one day and talked to me, and I thought he ought to bring it before the board, to talk to the board.
I've thought of more questions since then, Mort, don't worry.
Yeah, but I can see the problem,
I mean, it's an accounting problem essentially.
Yeah,
And all I'm looking at is, does one, you know, can a drainage district carry a positive balance? 'Cause-
Yeah, they can.
Because I've been told by different people, yes, they can, no, they can't, but if they can carry a positive balance, I understand what Carl's saying, you know, that might not get back to the landowner, because the next time it'll be assessed will probably be, what, 3 years? 4 years, 5 years?
Depends whether you have any more work done.
Yeah.
Whenever there's more work done.
I guess the
If
question,
the
okay,
balance
the
is
million-dollar
on.
question boils down to, somebody in 29 goes ahead and pays their drainage assessment. That, they've paid for something they actually shouldn't have. If they pass away, can that estate make a claim then to get those funds back? Or do they just forfeit those funds?
You'd have to talk to our county attorney or your attorney.
Well, if you guys determine there's something that needs to be refunded, they're not gonna lose.
They're not getting in there, sorry.
We wanna bring you in, Tom.
If it's a problem with drainage district attorney's gonna figure it out. If it's a problem with billing, then it seems pretty simple. The bill went out, pay the bill, when they figure out the right drainage district to charge it to, that money will be transferred to the drainage district, and you'll get a receipt for it. I would think that would be the simplest thing,
Yeah.
but, apparently that's gonna take a year.
Well, if it does, it does. I mean, nobody's expecting a check next week. I mean, that's not the
But I
issue.
can't charge it to 11. I mean, I can charge the bill to 11, but I can't, yeah, that works, never mind.
Okay. Shall we move on?
Yeah, please.
We got that question answered. Secondly, next time,
That's all you need from me?
Yeah,
see,
sure.
Oh, now she smiles and walks out the
We
door.
hope. Bye, Jan.
another issue I guess I had is, you know, part of the $20,000 that was spent for our quote-unquote clean-out, not clean-out maintenance, on Bloody Run Creek, I would invite each and every supervisor to drive up Highway 169. When you cross the bridge just north of where my folks live, slow down and just take a look back to the west. Amazingly, you know, this was supposed to be the cure-all and take care of problems. There's islands back in the creek again, there's dirt back in the creek again. The $20,000 you spent has done absolutely zero good. The other part of the question I guess I have, and I thought about this on the way home, this was a year ago, and I came to the board and asked this question as to, normally when you do work, when you do tiling, you start at the outlet, working the outlet back up creek, or back up to where you want to drain it. We went the opposite way. We went from the end of it down towards the outlet, but then we stopped, you know, 1.5 to 2 miles from the outlet, is because that's Army Corps of Engineer. Takes special permits, takes special, just special permits to work in there. At that time, I asked the supervisors if they could go, you know, because right now, all the water that comes down that creek is gonna go 150 feet east of the Highway 169 bridge, and it's gonna stop. It's gonna stop, trust me. It's gonna come back, it's gonna flood my land, it's gonna flood Gary Adams's land, it's gonna flood, you know, on the east side, because there's no outlet. You're taking a 10-gallon bucket, and you're trying to pour it through a quarter-sized funnel, and that doesn't work. I guess my question is, has there been any conversations yet, or have we approached the Army Corps of Engineers to be able to do work in that final 1.5 to 2 miles to get outlet for that creek, as opposed to just making more and more flow coming down and having it stop? Have they been contacted yet by any chance?
Guess I don't know that they have. I
To that end, and if they haven't, I guess my question is, why?
Has there been any kind
Need a
of
petition,
action or
don't we?
petition, I guess?
Somebody has to bring a petition
We spent
signed.
$20,000 on a maintenance because one person asked for it.
Was it 20,000 total? What was the actual, I keep saying 20,000, what was the amount we actually spent on
We
this?
spent $20,000 because you didn't have to put it out to have it roll.
I don't have the sheet with me.
Well, it might not be,
That was the contract.
I don't know what, I don't see the bill.
It was very close to 20.
Okay.
But I think that included Peterson giving us a break on rates, so he got the job finished for less than 20.
Okay.
So that was what, just a dip out of a
Yeah.
bad spot?
And there was a request for that,
Yes.
correct? And it was signed. That's
Yes.
why that.
That's why that
We
was
can't do
done.
anything about that.
If you need to sign a request, I'll sign a request.
You can.
To get movement to where it's gonna drain out to, because right now, there's no place for it to go.
Yeah, but you can't go more than, what, 150 feet into a natural
Yeah, there's
stream?
some argument on how far it is, but it's not very far.
Yeah.
That's where the Corps, you could approach the Corps with a permit application to go further.
Which they may or may
They
not.
may or may not.
They may or may not approve it, but we'll never know unless we approach it.
So we need a written request for that from somebody, a landowner, to start the process, correct?
Yeah, and
I mean, we
I guess
can't
this
do
would
that.
be an improvement, so I'm thinking that would take 2 landowners just to sign a petition to study the outlet
Okay.
for possible improvement.
Yeah, larger, more costly process, right, than 20,000?
Oh, yeah, more than that.
Well, you'd have to go
Yeah.
through that process,
Yeah.
yeah. So we'd need a written request,
So you need a bond?
plus a bond,
That's,
I'm
yeah,
not saying you need a bond.
which is how much, Chris, 5? How much is the bond?
varies.
Depends on.
Oh, varies on the, yeah.
Yeah. You might,
Proposed cost of a
you,
preliminary engineer.
you might have 10,000 by the time you get the permit and everything going and approved.
So then the risk there, Kevin, would be if you signed on and somebody else signed on and you put up a $10,000 bond, and they did the study, and then the Corps said, no, we wouldn't allow it, you'd have that study, but you wouldn't get, you'd have to pay for it, because the landowners wouldn't be paying for it, that's the risk.
That's
I
the
guess
risk and
my other
improvement.
recourse then, or recourse would be, if we continue to take and dip out this creek and send more and more water down, but don't do anything for outlet, is my recourse to come back to supervisors and say, well, thanks to your spending my money in Drainage District 11, we've got crop damage from flooding caused by this creek coming down with no outlet and drowning out crop.
Well, theoretically, if you bring the water down faster, it should help keep the outlet clean,
But
wouldn't it?
it's not.
You should.
Rick, go on, take a look.
I've driven by there.
You go a mile east of that bridge on 169, that creek is about this wide, and you got rocks out there bigger than cars. And that's just in the mile from 169 east. Then you go another mile east, and it's worse. There's no outlet. The outlet's essentially non-existent.
I don't know what the slope is there or anything.
Yeah,
Oh,
that would all be part of the study, you topography from the river up to the current outlet, you'd find the fall, but,
You're only restoring the open ditch to its original.
there.
It's not.
Exactly, that's the statement I wanted to make.
Yeah.
Not exceeding what was already there, so the damages are caused by the outlet, and the outlet is not the drainage district's responsibility, correct?
Correct, I mean,
Within so many feet of the,
right, the drainage district was established, it had its starting point, did the original work, and now you've just worked to try and maintain it. So you haven't worsened the situation from the original construction, you're just trying to maintain the same capacity it had at that time.
how does this process?
I've lived in that area for 60 years, Rick.
Yeah?
I'll be honest with you. When I was, 10, 15 years old, that creek didn't flood like it does now. So, on that
I'm not a-
aspect,
yeah, you
what
could be right.
what has changed then? If
Global warming.
If the creek,
Like garbage.
if the creek is the same as it was when it was designed,
Yep.
so, and if we have no control over the outlet portion of it, what has changed?
More
If we've done this here, maintained everything this way like it's supposed to be, but if the outlet hasn't been maintained, and if the outlet doesn't let it flow out of there, then that becomes the issue.
Except that it should have been the issue from the beginning. Now, maybe there's been siltation downstream.
I can guarantee you.
But the number I thought was 200 feet downstream, but different drainage attorneys say different things, but it's not very far.
That's right.
Would that be the same thing we have going in East River over here, West River, between Rutland and Humboldt, only on a smaller scale? We have the same problem there, and we haven't changed a thing, we got the thing full of dirt.
I'm not a drainage expert, I can't tell you. All I simply know is there's a lot more flooding now than there has been. And, as far as the timing of the district, no, not really, the timing of that creek, not really. I mean, I've been up and down that creek, I don't know how many times.
60 years ago, you had corn and alfalfa and oats, and now it's all continuous corn and beans, maybe that's part of the problem.
You can blame anything you want, that's what I'm telling you, if the water can't get away, the water can't get away.
Yeah, I understand.
And that's why I think, before we're gonna spend $20,000 on projects, we should make sure the water's gonna get away.
Well, we won't clean it out anymore.
I was just gonna say that. But I hate to say it, when you go past that bridge, take a look to the west and you
We got a lot of dredge ditches that need to
you will be
be
hard
dipped out.
pressed to say that ditch was dipped out and cleaned out, because there's no way in the world. It's got grass growing on the islands out there and everything, so.
So Rick, the problem here appears we have a real deep dredge ditch that can't hold its banks. I mean, that's, happens all over, but.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
And-
and the problem is when you go to clean it out and fix those, if it don't reestablish, it's always gonna come back.
Yeah, and you are obligated to maintain that ditch.
Right.
One person submits a petition to dip that out again, you're required to dip it out.
It could
So-
come tomorrow.
Yeah,
I mean.
yeah. But an improvement is different. That
But just
takes two
because they
people.
requested, it has to be needed.
Oh, yeah, well, yeah,
Yes.
I think
Or
11
it probably did at that time.
11 was one of those where we checked what the bottom did, and it was not deep enough to warrant the entire length of it being done. So they ended up doing a lot of it, because they could move almost as fast, dipping a little everywhere, and then taking the islands as they went too. But that was a maintenance project, a petitioner signed, you had to do it. It didn't have anything to do with the outlet. Now, the outlet might have changed over the years with siltation or whatever, but the problem is the outlet's not part of the district.
Yeah.
So
That's a
you
big issue.
It is.
So what is the process to try and get the outlet to work?
Petition for an improvement to the drainage district.
Or why do we have to petition for an improvement? Why can't we petition for a maintenance or whatever, just like it was done before? Well, see, the problem
It's not the district, you're talking
That's not the
about.
district, that is not in the district.
Right, that's the problem.
So who do we petition for?
Okay, what we'd probably end up doing is, if you petition for an improvement downstream, the report would include recommendations for annexation of that area and improvement to the stream. But
The Corps would have to approve.
Corps would have to approve it.
So does the petition come to the supervisors, does the petition
I would
come to
say
you?
so.
Does the
No,
petition come to the Army Corps of Engineers?
Supervisors,
Because we'll have to send in to them for a petition.
yes,
And that's the improvement, because it's in the cost for the 20.
yes, yes,
And you probably
And it's
need a
out.
bond.
yes. Yeah, that's, you've been requiring a bond for improvements in case it doesn't go forward.
Which this one would have some
Yeah, because
possibility.
we'll guarantee that it will give.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
I thank you for your time, and remember to go Hawks more, I like your coffee.
I used to like you, Kevin.
You guys don't belong to the same church or neither do you.
Oh,
jeez.
That's why I first heard
No
about
wonder
it.
you
I
have.
need a drainage motion to go out.
I'll make
Yeah.
a motion.
I will.
Second, Jerry.
Okay.
It would be nice if you could get something different on the papers, 'cause I get that call from people too, what's this for?
I think it can be done if we get 4 or 5 counties, one might not, but 4 or 5 might.
You're here already,
This
Paul.
question doesn't want to put money into it because,
When we go down to ISAC, they have all kinds of booths. Oh, well, we do that too. That's really good. If you think they're good, they're on here.
well, I think so.
Well, especially if they already got a database with these counties' staffers. Thanks. Yeah, thank you.
Don't forget to call that guy.
Thank you.
And he keeps going and there.
Paul, you're 45 minutes late.
I know it.
Yeah, where you at?
And the guy with the gun in the other room says, "Don't dilly-dally."
And he's got her on the meter, probably. Now, what was it I was wanting to ask Cougar, and you guys said he was a guy, I forgot what I was asking.
Hear about that meeting in 6 months?
Oh, about that. He probably does. I don't think he will. We just don't get him.
Have a good nap.
Yeah, I did, got lots of stuff done.
Alrighty.
county lost their care.
You knew it'd be noon, didn't you? You did.
Oh, yeah, I knew.
Oh, good, man.
I was hoping to be done by noon.
Be eating a lot of bar.
Never hard to stay out of.
Yeah. You
I would
sure?
lost the rest of the board.
Haven't been in the bathroom all morning.
Make it a tourist attraction.
I will too, while you're taking it. I didn't sleep with it. Set down the can, would you? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
You got a minute?
You bet.
Yeah, I think we got two guys getting refreshments.
Correct. We're legal.
Here he is. Very good. Good morning, gentlemen. The first order of business is, should be fairly straightforward. Approve voucher number 4 to Merriman Bridge, for work completed on project, BROS Perrins 57. This would reflect, the piles driven, pier caps and abutment caps, complete in place, with, clearing and grubbing, and the removal of existing structure completed. So the total at this point for claims is $26,399.22. The status, if you would ignore the weather, we would maybe have a deck pour by the end of next week. But with the weather in place, don't know. The pans, they have most of the, pans in, they have the one span to complete yet before you can start laying the steel on it. They got side forms to stick up obviously yet too, but, they were trying to be ready to do that, tomorrow or Wednesday, is to start placing deck steel, and I don't know if they'll make it.
Okay, we have a motion,
So moved.
second?
I'll second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
Second order is approve, construction on county right-of-way from Midland Power Cooperative for a new underground electrical service at 2110 Hawaii Avenue. I copied the front page and the back page on this. Apparently, it's a new, residence is gonna go at that location. And, we don't see any problem with this, would recommend its approval. And
I'll make a motion to approve the construction of the county right away.
Any other discussion? Not all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thirdly, approve Humboldt County fiscal year 2014 official report of the county highway engineer. This affectionately is known as the annual report. There's two things by law that I'm required to do. One of them is to prepare an annual report by September 15th, and the other one is to submit a budget by April 15th. This is a summary of our fiscal year 2014, which would have ended June 30th this summer. In short note, the easiest way to look at is how much we spent and how much we brought in. On sheet 2, total expenditures, line 19, we were just under $3.5 million. And the short version of total receipts would be on sheet 3. Sheet 3, line 9. And then our receipts were about $3.9 million. So, the good news is, contrary to popular opinion, we cannot borrow money, we can't spend more than we budget, and we didn't. Every year we have a mild winter, we can, build a little bit like we did last year.
This has to go to DOT?
Yes, yes.
You need a motion on this? Accept it, or approve it?
So moved.
Second. Any other discussion? Not all in favor?
Aye.
Vote for motion carried.
Final order of business, set date and time for county auction for sale of surplus items at 5:30 PM on September 23rd, 2014 at the Secondary Road Shop in Dakota City. I have a short list of some of the items that we're gonna put an advance notice in on today. I talked to the auctioneer. Mr. Crossley is waiting for one other one, and after you talk to the sheriff, we may add to this list. But at this point, we're doing a partial listing to publicize this week. These following items. Let me see. I handed one to the media already, Peggy. I can get you an official copy or otherwise. The main thing is we have construction-related piles. There's 11 HP, 14 by 73. That's 73 pounds per feet. They're 25 feet long, and one of them's 16 feet. These are too big for us to use for anything. They're left over from bridge from east of Livermore. There's reinforcement that was tied to that project, and there's various sizes from number 4 to a number 11 bars, straight and bent. Those 11 bars would make a good driveway for you, Mr. Haverly, if you're adding on to your driveway. Yep. 3 V-plows, 2 Wassaws, a Hinky.
This is a spelling thing.
Uh-oh.
Office furniture. You might want to fix it before it goes to the...
Furniture, okay, that's good.
Could be fun.
Yeah, I did this last night and this morning before the dentist, so,
Furniture.
get down, we got the, from weed eradication is this 1975 3/4 ton Chevy we're electing to sell, the flatbed and the tank. Conservation has a 28-foot gooseneck trailer, and 18 sections of wooden privacy fence. Secondary roads has 2 1,000-gallon UL listed above-ground storage tanks. A Cat 3306 that's been stuck in the corner long before I got here that's blown and we saved, and I have no idea why. Office furniture and equipment, there's a lot of that, numerous. I had an adjective in front of that, I removed it earlier. Eagle air conditioner, there was an air conditioner that I'm not sure who's the source, the valve grinder and the seat grinder are secondary roads. Hot seat 240-volt pressure washer, it's a kerosene, a model 555 SS, and that's out of one of the shops. We bought 4 of those washers in 2000 when I got here. 6 horsepower upright air compressor, a Sanborn air compressor I haven't seen, that's courthouse. A radiator for an international truck with a PTO that we had redone. It's been around as long as anybody knows. Why we still have it, don't know.
somebody that has an international truck with a PTO going through it might be interested. And Humboldt welder would be, one of the items that the sheriff is, selling. But that's just a short list. We have yet to get everything organized, we're getting closer. For instance, the rebar is all one big pile, and when I asked them to sort and straighten that out, I had some foul looks and some comments, but, I think that's the only way to fairly, there'll be potentially some money, there above scrap, and I'll lose a bed, but that's all right. Somebody might buy it. Anyway, we're well on our way. I think, we're gonna get it published today. I know we'll get it published today, and we'll get a completer, talk to the auctioneers, and we plan on going the end of the week trying to get a more detailed list.
Good.
And we might run out of paper if we did that, so it's not gonna be, yeah.
Yeah. This'll be good, though. This'll get attention.
It's a house cleaning, as I told our staff, is some of this stuff, you look at it and say, well, we might need that, but I haven't used it, we haven't used it in at least the 14 years I've been here.
It's time to go.
Gotta do it every now and then.
And then at some point, we might have to go buy something that we sold. If we do,
You might go another 14 years.
somebody
and
can
not
tell
use
me
it.
I told you
I'd
so.
like to have you come to my basement and garage.
Who? I'm not good at this, don't ask my wife, I'm not good at this,
Okay, you wanna set a time and date for the 23rd at 5:30?
Sure, I'll make a motion for that.
Second,
I'll second it.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
Any guy?
Peggy, when you figure out what we're gonna do, Rick, maybe you can help me on the 23rd. I'm gonna bring my trailer and we'll put it on, load all those computers there. And I think Rick's in the hay rack and put that stuff on, so I said a couple of us could help instead of having county workers do that. Okay, he'll know what we need to get out that day. Perfect. I don't
Okay.
think it'll take that long. We'll probably go to sale for a little bit, won't we?
Oh, yeah.
We can cut 3 hours, 4 hours.
That's the deal.
Oh, well,
Very good, I, will let the, sheriff in.
Sounds got a bigger thing, iron. Okay.
Furniture.
Thinking fun.
Were you gonna fix, like, that, bridge or culvert, or box culvert at Pioneer this summer yet? Did you talk about?
Oh, yeah, on C-49.
And down south of Rutland, and...
Yep.
Is that still on the program?
Still in the program, what we should have had, and I'm not sure if they completed, they did the leveler east of Thor on Thursday, and they were gonna try to shoot and seal Friday in between rains. Not sure if they made it or not, I haven't been down there. Chip seal.
Yeah, it's done.
Okay, so the chip seal's done on all of that. They talked, we talked about time frame on the asphalt patch, and the asphalt patch isn't so weather dependent as the rest, so I don't know when it's gonna happen, but it's still on the books. We approved it. It's already obligated funds in the annual report. It'll be later on, this fall.
Good.
Anything else to call? If not, so let's move on to claims.
I reviewed the claims, it looks like $230,875.59 in general, no, that's in drainage. Drainage is $230,875.59. The general claims were $144,908.03. I would move their approval.
Second?
I'll second.
Second by Rick. Any other discussion? Not all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Okay, authorize chairman to sign personal service agreement with Linda Frieders for grant writing for the law enforcement center.
Out in the hall.
I'll make the motion.
Linda's out there.
Linda's, yeah, I
Yes,
see
we're gonna
that
have a meeting
somewhere.
afterwards on it.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
No,
that's
that's all
right.
right. I read through it too.
She said, here's the contract for working on the LEC grant, she allowed 60 hours. Didn't know if that would be enough or not, but...
She's very good and very efficient, so she'll do us a good job. Did you make a motion?
Yeah, I started to make a motion.
Sorry.
Started to make a motion for, the grant writing for Linda Frieders.
Your second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Okay, abate taxes on secondary road parcels in Bode and Hardy. Oh.
She will come down and, okay, she's got all the information.
Is that where the county shed, the old county shed was? Is
Yeah.
that where-
Hello, would you tell Linda that we are ready for her? Thank you. Bye. In the meantime, we'll be doing, tomorrow night Pat has his meeting for, mental confinement. And there was some information that DNR sent along with it, just how the master matrix works, and I just thought you guys would like to look through that too sometime.
I think there will be a few, neighbors there with questions.
Just along Highway 3.
Yeah. Captain Johnson called me about it.
That's pretty close to her house, isn't it?
Well, it's down the road, back a little bit, it's gonna be pretty
Oh,
close.
is that on the ninth, Pat?
But it must, she must be past the variance.
I think she is,
Only good thing is it's to the east.
yeah.
Good morning.
We're abating some taxes.
You don't want our money?
Well, if Paul wants to pay it, that's fine with me. We have a couple parcels. One is the Hardy County shed, and the second one is the Bode County shed.
The new shed.
Mm-hmm. For some reason, the land didn't get exempt on our, when it went through the tax system.
Sure.
And so it was taxed, the buildings didn't. I honestly don't know how it happened, but anyway. In the end, we need to abate. We have parcel number, the one in Hardy is 08054760008, and that amounts to $44. And the one, the Bode property is, you ready? 02163760003. And that amounts to $76. Pardon me?
Costs more to live in Bode.
Yeah.
Hardy. I'll make a motion to abate those tax requests.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? Not all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
That was easy.
Carried.
Thanks, Linda.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, committee reports. Your pencil off, okay, good.
That's right, got a lot of stuff like that.
You better go back to work.
2 weeks.
Yeah, 'cause you're gonna be partially audited.
5 minutes.
Okay. Starting back on Monday, the 25th of August, I had a Building Families meeting in Clarion at 3 o'clock. Basically, we just reviewed the different programming they have going on, and had election of officers. We stuck Doug Bailey and Carl Humboldt as the officers for next year. Because of a change of accounting and working with the CPA, we did not approve the financial report. We're gonna do that in a phone call tomorrow. It's been revised. And the only other meeting I had was with the OC office on Thursday, 1:30. We met with Kruger and the engineers concerning the remodeling of the law enforcement center.
Peggy, I didn't have anything, I was gone a few days, and I didn't do anything.
Okay, Peggy, on the 26th, I had an UDMO meeting down in Fort Dodge, 5:30. And then on Thursday, the 28th, we met at the UOC, for a little work session there with INS and, Corn Belt. That was it.
27th of August, I had DCAT in Webster City. We let 2 contracts, one for mental health in schools, and Coleman got that one, and Friday evening program, and Coleman got that one also. Hamilton County turned in, a contract for it, but they only included for one school, and that was theirs. And we wanted to contract for all the schools in our three-county area, so we, threw that one out. But, other than that, I guess that was all.
Okay, on the 26th, met with Pat, MOC, talking about his equipment and so forth, and then county attorney and Peggy and I talked about our law enforcement levy and found out what we have don't count.
Which would count?
We're the county-wide law enforcement, so back to square one. And then on the 27th, we had our hazmat meeting down in Fort Dodge. We toured CJ, the South Korean company, and Cargill was down there also. They met out there, and I didn't realize how big a company that South Korean company is. They are involved in a lot of things, from entertainment to home shopping networks and manufacturing of foods in South Korea and in the Orient. Very interesting how they take byproducts from Cargill and make lysine out of it. And then one of the byproducts they have from that process is it sulfur? Sulfur nitrate, which is a natural fertilizer. And I think it takes about 300 gallons an acre to replace like equivalent to anhydrous. And they're working with New Co-op and some other people to get rid of that. So it looks, I don't know what the charges are gonna be, but it's a byproduct they have to get rid of. They keep it in a bladder, big bladder lagoon there, so, be interesting. It's kind of a chocolatey, brownish colored stuff and smells like chocolate, so.
Really?
So I thought that was interesting. And they're looking for landowners or places to take care of it. And then Thursday, I was at the EOC meeting on the 28th, talking about extension to the LEC. And then the 3rd, I had an IDDA meeting in Pocahontas. We set the annual meeting again for December 5th. We've had some supervisors that don't like that, so there must conflict with second judicial.
I don't know.
Do you
I missed
normally,
the last meeting for second judicial.
do you normally meet the first Friday of the month?
No, the last Friday, I think, isn't it? Yeah, third Friday is usually.
Maybe it's the other judicial district.
Or the third Friday, yeah.
Could be, but, we decided that, Thursday would interfere with District 2 meeting, and move it to Wednesday, this year would, conflict with my supervisors, or ISAC meeting, so we're gonna leave it the same.
Yeah.
It'll be at the Starlight. And one of the things that they talked about doing was having the drainage clerks, and then get together also in their own little group to talk about issues like we're talking about this morning with the tax things and so forth, so that was all I had.
You and Peggy get to entertain the entire ISAC staff this Thursday and Friday, don't you, here in town?
That's right.
A big party?
Big party.
Where'd you get set up to go to visit?
We're going down to CJ, and then we're gonna go to the new tank, and then to, high capacity.
Very good.
Different businesses, and then have our meeting, and then we're gonna have Jim Kellner take them on a horse ride from Rutland to Dakota City, and have a little snack at Benny's, and take them back. So,
Very good.
very good. Anything else, Peggy?
I don't think so. Just
All right, need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Somebody
We are
please.
adjourned,
Second, third,
whatever it is.
second's a hard word.
What time, Mort? Do the official start, Mort.